Hey, this is Cartaya again. How are you doing? I wanted to show you something pretty cool. A couple of really good events are coming up in July. That would be HVZ and Camarillo. And forget about bringing one of these here. This would be it's way too powerful of a gun. I mean, this thing, to really heat it up, can really start some fires. You know what I'm saying? I mean, if you heard the last video, you know what I mean. But about this baby, this tough little fighter overcame, as you can see. But at anywho, that's coming up. And also Armageddon on July 6th in Glendora. If you don't know anything about it, go to Nerf Haven and look it up, or just type it up on the internet, and you'll see. But they have a few restrictions that are interesting. Number one, they don't allow air guns. For example, any 5Ks, any 3Ks, anything like that, Streamlight Titans, anything like that. Can't bring those, okay? Number two, they do not allow any guns with exposed brass barrels, okay? So, that I know that this gun is way too powerful, way too powerful. I hit a coat hanger, but that was pretty cool. Yeah, this baby is just fighting. The seal's a little too tight on it, but it'll get better. It'll get better. So I had to make a RSpec fire strike that was that didn't have the exposed brass on it, but yet wasn't as powerful as this one, and still had sights. So I came upon a pretty good discovery when I did this. Let me show you the gun right here. This is a 12K ultra match, 12 kilogram ultra match right here. But you may notice something. It has a orange down tube that's nothing more than very finely wound, not electrical tape, that's duct tape, around my 9/16 compound bore on it. But there's also something else really wonderful. What to do with that mid-ratchet on a Alpha Trooper? That's what you do with it. You see it? You see it? Yeah. Okay, there it is. So, I'm going to publish pictures on my blog shortly, but what I had found was that if you take off these two little things here, you file 45 degrees there. This fits perfectly on the front assembly of not only a Fire Strike's accessory rail, but any damn one you want. I could throw this rig on a Retaliator. See that? I could throw it right on there. Could you imagine? Would that be cool? That'd be cool. So because then you could take this off. You don't need this big groove back here and all that, and you can just straight out shoot a modded Retaliator. So what the problem was the rear grooves. I had the same problem with the Ultra Match, and I finally got a couple of Woodruff brackets and spent all afternoon filing it. Now put in mind, this is my gun. This is my special gun. This is the one I use. And it has pretty much an AS6 Hornet front end on it that's modified to be affixed to a brass barrel. But I can't do this on every gun. I can't buy a Hornet every time I go to sell one of these, so I had to come up with something new with there too. And what I found is that the bottom bracket for your lockup on a Nerf Retaliator is the key. It's got this peg on it, if you can see it, where the spring goes in. Okay, and it makes a perfect center start point for sighting the gun. And then you can see the front sight, which I've also used to sight Retaliators before. It makes a groove right here to accommodate for this over here. If you see that, that's where your trigger catch is, where the magazine release catch is. That safety that everybody takes off always hits this. So on my guns, I always take them off. And the reason I take them off is simple. When you're shooting something as powerful as maybe an 8.5 kilogram Retaliator or a 14 kilogram RSpec, especially the RSpec, you fire it, and especially if it's in 14 kilogram and not 11 kilogram, which is a standard configuration with the stacked springs, you will feel the chassis buckle. It will buckle. And that much shock can take this little groove right here when you don't want it to, and it can make it go pop, lock up on you right during your firing. And so the next time you try to fire it, it's instead of being down like it should be, it's going to be up, and it's gonna lock up midway, and you're going to be stuck with a jam and the strifers are going to get you because they have truss fires and they spin up their motors, and they don't have locks and gears and springs like we do. So, anywho, you really don't need it. I know it's a bit off topic, but let me show you. Okay, this is a super veloce Retaliator. This is one of my favorite ones. SV basically means high velocity in Italian. Okay, watch this. I'm gonna load up a dart. Locking up just fine, man. It's not moving. The barrel stays in place. What is the trick? What is the trick to doing this? I don't need a front lockup. Now watch this. Because I don't have that lockup anymore, I can just do that. I can decock the gun. Any situation I run into, I can do. In other words, I don't have to fire it to put this gun in safe position anymore. And then I can lock it back up. See? Still. Without the magazine. I wanted to show you without the magazine. The magazine wasn't holding it. Okay? I mean, you might lock back a little like that, but even with the lockup, it does that. Okay? Yeah. Not bad for a 165 foot per second repeater, huh? But what you gotta do, this is the other bolt assembly for the RSpec. You notice the RSpec uses aluminum bolt sleds and Teflon tape. If you Teflon tape this heavily, now notice the Teflon tape does not hang pass forward, but it does get that groove right there. That's how I do Teflon. If you make it like that, you're making it so this groove will never pick up the O-ring and make it go into the chamber and make it lose compression, but at the same time will give it enough hold so that your bolt sled doesn't move when you're firing it. Another trick is to put double springs on your jam door lockup. That will make it so when this goes up, okay, here's your jam door right there. If it goes up and over, it pushes up on here, and if this is stronger, it'll put more resistance on your bolt sled. The SV has a plastic bolt sled. It doesn't have a metal one. I only use the metal ones for guns that are really, really powerful. So you really don't need that part. I know a lot of people debate about it and say, well, it's just confusing. You can't tell when it's cocked, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. You can't da-da-da-da and all that stuff and da-da-da. Well, that's why you do that. You take off the rear mainspring cap and you file it so that you can actually see that in yellow, or in some of my guns, because I'm using the Explorer piston, black. Okay, that's just using a normal piston. An SV is basically an RX without the extra orange Modworks and Explorer parts. It's made to be more inexpensive, but it's one of my main battle guns. And anywho, you could now take this lockup right here, and first thing you want to do is you want to file this straight tab off. File it completely off. Okay, with a file. Then you want to take these two, either hit them with some tin snips or some scissors and cut these off. And then you want to sand the base. 45 degrees, 45 degrees. And then you would stick it, on here. Like so. That's what that is. So then, what you do is you take apart your Fire Strike, or whatever gun you're using, a Retaliator, Rampage. I can think of a million guns. Oh, wouldn't this be a great setup for a Rampage? Dude, I mean, you might need a wider front blade, like the end result of this one right here. So play around with it a little, But you could put this on the back of a Rampage. It's a little bit more like a gun sight. With that big long rail on top, could you imagine? Or a Stampede, a Raven. I can name a million guns that can use a front rear sight without having to go out and buy an aftermarket part. Okay? All you need is an Alpha Trooper to take apart that lock. And I'm sure there's other parts that are like that. So then what you do is you tack it on this side only. You tack it on that side only. You're just tacking it on. Once it starts to harden to the point where it stays put, at least to a degree, you put the whole thing together and you test fire it. And as you're firing it, you want to get your side by side, and you move this side by side to get it lined up. Okay. After you do that, you go in and you line it up, and you tap, and you make sure it is close to completely cured or completely cured. Okay. You hit it with a second coat of epoxy here, boom, and boom. Okay. This fixes it. This makes it so it's there. Now you go back out, and once this kicks off, you do it as usual, and you want to not glue this side. You just want to glue one side. That way, when you're taking it apart, which modded guns you usually do have to service them, upgrade them, whatever, you can just you can keep the sights on there, and your sights will be good. Okay. Next thing you want to do is file this off. Don't worry about up and down when you're doing the first one. You just want it side by side correct. Next thing you do is you file this. If it's going too low, this needs to be filed down. If it's too high, you're gonna have to find a way to file this up. One way to do that is just to take a stick and aim it up a little, but usually it'll be shooting too low. Another thing you can do too is you can see if that's level, see? And measure the two sides. If it's level, it's what you want, and most likely it's going to be shooting flat. Unless your barrel is diving down, and I've noticed even level, even like your Retaliators and stuff, they dive at 5 degrees even when the sights are perfectly level. So you can just adjust for that and make it flat. And there you have it. You got yourself a sight rig. Look at that. Look at that front and rear. Oh, is it probably little front and rear bruise? Okay, at my eye relief, where that would be, that's what it would look like. That's about it. But if you're closer to it, the front sight will look smaller and the rear sight will look bigger, of course. That's optical illusion of size. You know how that is, okay? And, yeah. Now, that's how you make those sights. But anywho, take care. And do watch my last video before this one about the usage of silicone lubes, and then make sure you're using the right kind, because if you don't, it could be dangerous. Do not use any lubes with petroleum distillates or acetone in it. Take care. Peace.